Welcome back to the vlog. Today I am back here in the basement, as you might have noticed, or as it's now called, the upstairs basement. So in this video I'll be talking through the differences between riding outside on the road and riding indoors on the turbo, and any top tips I've learnt to make the latter more bearable. Because today I'm going to be going over why it is riding on the turbo so hard. Later this month I'm really excited to announce that on the 24th and 25th of October I will be taking part in the Red Bull Timelaps, which may or may not, for me, be taking place on a turbo, but more on that later. So without further ado, let's go into those differences. So let's start with the obvious difference. When you're out on the road, there are always things to look at and distract you, whether it be a pothole on the road or anything else like that. There are many elements that will distract you, such as wind or gradients. To add to that, on the turbo, you have full control over resistance and how hard you have to push. Whereas on the road, you don't have that luxury. Out on the road, you have to use a lot more brain power, whether that be avoiding obstacles or keeping yourself upright. Obviously, you can do a group ride on Zwift, but that's not the same as going out with your mates on a club run at the weekend. And finally, after a road bike ride, it actually feels like you've been out of the house and got yourself somewhere, instead of that feeling like you've been stuck inside all day. So yeah, there are absolutely loads of differences between riding outside and riding on the turbo, and what's really interesting is that you get so many riders that are the purists and refuse to go on the turbo, and vice versa. You also get so many riders these days who are king of Zwift. They absolutely love the turbo but don't like going outside too much, and the crossover these days is really interesting. But now I'm going to dig into some of the best ways you can combat these differences and also some of my top tips. I've just tripped the lights again, so I'm getting told off, but I'm going to move downstairs onto a turbo setup into what was the old basement, fit studio number 2, to show you what's what. Wow, jeez. So this is currently what the basement looks like. It is a bike fit studio, it is an echoey bike fit studio, waiting for a jig. So the difference is, actually, this isn't turbo kit. That's better. First here, I'm using my Tax Neo Turbo Trainer, which I absolutely love. It's got some really cool features built into it, like for example, when I go over cobbles on Zwift, it actually vibrates and gives some feedback into my riding. Entertainment. Now this is absolutely key, because I think the biggest problem when it comes to turbo is people just say they get bored. Stick a movie on, stick a YouTube documentary on, stick some music on, stick whatever it is that you like. I have to say, for me, what really helped was Zwift. Love it or hate it, for me it was a game changer, especially when it comes to racing. This totally changes the game for me and allows you to race with anyone from across the whole globe, all without leaving the garage. The reason why I love it mostly is because it makes the minutes and the hours fly by faster than anything else. Nice mask, Sip.
I think that's it. Okay.
Very good. Bit echoey.
Bit what?
Bit echoey, but it's because no one's in here.
Yeah. The handle wasn't too wide.
Now the next thing to think about is a comfortable setup. All those little things that help you stay comfortable when you're spending all that time on a turbo. For me, the biggest one is a fan. The bigger, the better. Staying cool is going to really make riding inside that bit more comfortable. A small towel available to hand is also going to be a good idea, because the likelihood is you're going to get quite sweaty. Another good tip is, where possible, ensure you like the environment you're in. If you don't like the garage, move to your front room. As long as the room has some kind of ventilation and your partner won't go mental at you, you're good. How much turbo riding have you done, James?
How much what?
Turbo riding.
I haven't ridden the turbo in probably 10 years. Absolutely, I understand everyone wants to ride turbos. The turbo ride is a lot easier now though, isn't it? It's a lot more, it's a lot less boring.
Immersive.
With the likes of Zwift and what have you.
Zwift is honestly unreal these days.
Oh,
so
it's
good.
completely single-handedly saved the turbo trainer market.
No, totally.
I have Mr. Min coming in next week actually. Min.
Eric White, really?
Yeah, he's coming in for a bike fit.
No.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you top tips for turbo riding. Any advice?
Turbo ride. So riding on a turbo trainer is generally far less dynamic than riding out on the road. So you tend to be in one place all of the time. So as a result, the idiosyncrasies and bad elements of your position start to come out. So you start getting saddle sores, you start getting like numb hands and all of this kind of stuff. And it doesn't necessarily, and you don't get that stuff when you're out on the road because you're moving around, you're mobilising a lot more because riding out on the road is much more dynamic. With that in mind, it might be worth knocking the saddle down a little bit, reducing the reach a little bit on your turbo bike, if you're lucky enough to own a turbo bike. That's probably the one nugget of information that I would offer from a fit perspective. Yeah, if you're starting to feel a few little niggles, knock the saddle down a bit, wind the reach down a little bit, and should help reduce the discomforts of sitting in the same position for a long time.
Thank you so much, top tip. And final word for all those taking part on Red Bull. What do you say to them?
Very good luck, and have a Red Bull on me.
Cheers. Another thing to think about when you're on the turbo is your kit choice. Now there are some brands out there, including Nicole, who now sell kit specific for the turbo. The key here is going to be a comfortable pair of bib shorts with a nice pad that you know is going to work well for you, and also obviously a breathable top. Now for me, I use a summer short sleeve base layer, but breathable summer jersey also does the trick. Now an element that's absolutely crucial to turbo riding is hydration. Hydrating correctly before, during, and then of course after your turbo session. It's going to ensure not only you're able to get everything out during a session, but it also means you'll be able to stay on top of the watts when you're on the turbo, and then when you're finished, recover appropriately. Drinking is always something that I struggle with personally, and I never ever drink enough, but you really should be going for at least a massive bottle every hour on the turbo at the very minimum, if not more. Especially if, in the case of Red Bull Timelaps, you're doing hour after hour. That's quite essential. Something you might want to think about when it comes to hydration is using a Noon tablet or any kind of hydration tablets out there to make sure that you are getting the salts and all the stuff that your body really needs. Now another thing when it comes to turbo riding is movement. It is very, very restrictive. It encourages your body to sit very, very still and not move about. You'll probably find on the turbo you won't find yourself getting out of the saddle and stretching those muscles quite as much as you would do naturally out on the road. So it's certainly a good idea to have a little stretch on the bike now and then to avoid your muscles getting tight. This is again something you should think about when you get off the turbo and having a good old stretch in between sessions. So when it comes to those longer stints on the turbo, whether you're taking part in Red Bull Timelaps or not, taking on nutrition then becomes something you need to think about. If your stint is longer than 1 hour in duration, I would certainly start thinking about what kind of carbohydrates you're going to be putting into your body to ensure you can maintain your effort. One last thing before I forget, for those racing the Red Bull Timelaps, every single time you ride the turbo, your kit will be getting wet and sweaty. So I would encourage you to think about how many sets of kit you have, and so plan accordingly. The last thing you want to be doing is getting into a wet pair of sweaty bib shorts that you've previously ridden in. Oh yeah, and get yourself some of this, guys. So with all that said, hopefully you found a few of those points interesting or useful. Whether you're competing in the Red Bull Timelaps or not, maybe you can implement a few of them into your turbo training this winter. If you are racing the Red Bull Timelaps, so really good luck to all of you. I will be racing with some teammates of my own yet to be announced, so stay tuned for that one. We've got some pretty exciting things planned, and that should make a good video, and not long to wait now, so I absolutely can't wait. Speaking of time-lapse, if you haven't already entered, there's still time, so do head over to redbull.co.uk/timelapse to find out more. As usual guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Ciao.